How's the Africa strategy coming along? Quite well. We're bidding on a lot of stuff. We got a big thing with the ATA we're bidding on, and we've gotten a lot of deal flow out there. We've been around long enough that people trust us. It takes about 2 years, 3 years to become part of the family. Then everybody just talks to you and you kind of figure stuff out. But it does certainly take a point to get to a point where you have a deal that makes sense. A lot of these deals that are proposed, they are not batteries included. It requires enormous amounts of work to fix them up to a point where you can actually make money, or at the very least produce something of value to people. And there's always the same thing. There's tons of excitement. They always want to do something, and then it dies on the vine somewhere along the way. So you have to have a lot of patience to do business in Africa, and you have to have a lot of domain expertise, and you have to have people physically in the jurisdiction. It's funny. We see some of these projects run by, oh, we got this deal with this government. Oh, yeah, we know this. We know this president. We know this person. It's like everybody knows a president. Everybody knows some king. Everybody's got a connection. Putting a deal together, much harder. The only way a deal works in a place like Africa is that you have to align the incentives so that nobody who lives in that jurisdiction, let's say Ethiopia, Rwanda, whatever, has an incentive to kill the deal. They want to keep the deal alive because it's in everybody's best interest to do so. So you have to build consortia. You have to build public-private partnerships. You have to make sure the money makes sense all around. You have to make sure local businesses are involved. You have to make sure there's political consequences, like they'd have to fire local people and like a whole village would get laid off or something. When you put all those pieces together, then you have something real, but it literally takes years to construct all those things. So it's not a game for the fast. It's about 3 to 7 years to get something done. That's why we always had a long arc view, but ultimately it's the most meaningful, because if you pull something off, you change the lives of millions of people, and you give them access to significantly better systems than we have in the United States. And they suddenly wake up 10, 20 years from now, and they can build real wealth with those systems to an extent that they end up actually competing more than the United States or Europe does or China does. And so the fastest growing economies will be in Africa in 2040 and 2050 if we do this right. And that's how I'd like my legacy to be. I really care a lot about this, and I spend quite a bit of time in Africa when I'm allowed to travel for this reason. And it's also just fun. It really is. Some of the best moments I've ever had have been just going and meeting these incredible people all throughout Africa who have nothing. And yet they're just the nicest, happiest, most interesting people who have the brightest outlook on life. And it just regenerates and recharges you. You hang out with all these neurotic rich people when you go to New York and Connecticut. I have a lot of hedge fund friends. And they show you their artwork and this other stuff, and then they talk about their 4 ex-wives. And you're thinking, man, I don't want this life. And then you go to some place in South Africa in the townships, and you talk to some guy, and he has 1/1000th of that, and he's significantly happier. You say, okay, there's some wisdom here. So I really enjoy that a lot more. And it's fun working there. It just takes patience.